Hey everybody, Steve here, and today in this video we're going to talk about health and fitness stuff. And with that said, I've got 2 hours and 8 minutes and 10 seconds until my print comes out from my resin printer. So until then, we're going to talk a little about health and fitness. So as you can see by the title, Hypertrophy Stalled, Try Lower Weight with Higher Reps. Now this is really interesting because the days of people saying, hey, you got to put in 110% and it's got to be heavyweight and it's got to be, some lower reps. That's the only way in which you're going to get big is lift big and so on and so forth. These myths have been purported by many bodybuilders over the years, and we try to apply that to normal everyday people like you and me who don't abuse steroids and blow up as big as a house and put our health at risk and long-term, sense of well-being, put that at risk. We don't do that, okay? We just want to go to the gym. We want to lose some pounds. We want to get a little bit of strength. We want to get some hypertrophy. And for some people, they see this as a great way because not only is it good for your physical health, but it's also good for your mental health. There's that aspect of it. And then there are some people who have certain goals when it comes to health and fitness. Some people their goal is to gain strength. Some people do strength competitions. Some people do the 1,000-pound club where you do, deadlift, bench, and squat. And if it adds up to 1,000 pounds, boom, you get obviously graded and you're in the club. There's powerlifting competitions. There's just those who want to look good, and that is their goal. And of course, that comes with that is hypertrophy. And how do we do that? Well, unfortunately, bodybuilders have kind of ruined it for us, and there have been a number of interviews where professional bodybuilders had said, when Muscle and Fitness came, or the Weider, interviews and stuff like that, and they did the films, and they had these guys lifting these super heavy weights, and then as soon as the cameras were gone, as soon as the reporter was gone, they went back to their 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds or whatever. A lot of them did low weight with high repetitions. Now, does that mean that with the high weight and low repetitions, you're not going to get any hypertrophy? Absolutely not. You will get hypertrophy. You'll also get some strength gains. But we're going to talk about this, and here we go. I've got this on a little presentation here, and I don't know why my face isn't showing up. Why is my face not showing up? Camera, scene, that's right. Source is camera. Overlays, recording, output, no. Options, stream size, source, scene. Wow, I don't know where I went. Where did I go? Where did I go? Those are overlays. Oh, there we go. Okay. Thought I was going crazy there for a second. And actually, this is a little bit, I like that. It's a little bit bigger. Anyway, we're going to talk about this, about hypertrophy, and especially if you get to the point of where you've stalled in your hypertrophy, and we're going to talk about how to regain or look at different ways in which you can get back on the hypertrophy train if you've kind of stalled. So the first thing we're going to take a look at here, hypertrophy, heavy weight with low reps versus low weight with higher reps. And what we're going to see is while heavy weight with lower reps and low weight with higher reps both produce hypertrophy to some degree, the days of people claiming you need to put in 100% effort. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people like and I've seen it. And the problem is operating at such a high effort level of 100%, that's generally associated with a greater risk of injuring yourself. And it has been disproven many times in regards to you got to put 100% every single time. That's just not true. And science and studies have been done to show that that is actually not true. So anyway, really what it comes down to, multiple studies have shown that low weight with high reps produce hypertrophy, and it's really neat because it basically what it talks about, there's a number of studies where it talks about using lower weight with higher repetitions, like 20 to 30 repetitions. And what that ends up doing is recruiting the smaller muscle fibers. And once those get fatigued, and then the larger muscle fibers jump in, the neuromuscular connection and the whole 9 yards. And it really ends up, because you don't gas yourself like you would if you're using heavy weights with low repetition. So if I used a really heavy weight that I usually do, I don't know, maybe 4 to 8 repetitions, and I'm doing that and I'm putting my 100% in there, then I'm pretty much done. Every set after that, unless I have a longer rest period, I'm not going to be able to get the amount of volume that I can than doing low weight with high repetitions operating at less than 100%. And actual studies have shown this to be true. So this is really some good information. So especially if you're stalled. This is good news for seniors as well, because using low weight with high repetitions minimizes the chance of injuries when compared to working 100% with heavy weight and low reps. Now, the interesting thing that we found out here is the key to hypertrophy is volume. Your body is going to react to a stimulus, and that's the weight that we put as we're lifting and doing all that stuff. Resistance training, whether it's body weight, kettlebells, machines, or free weights. Machines and free weights will both give you hypertrophy. There's not one that's better than the other. There's studies have been done on that too. So the days of old where bodybuilders said, "Oh, it's only free weights will give you the best and superior hypertrophy," it's absolutely not true. This is really interesting down here. According to studies, heavy weight with low reps, like 5 repetitions or less, is 85% of your 1 rep max. That's usually what these studies. And I think there was I was reading an article that had listed like 14 different studies that they looked at. And this was the conclusion in regards to what is heavy weight, what is the number of reps, and what is the percentage of your 1 rep max, and get hypertrophy. If you go 100%, that's great. But the problem is when you go to 100%, you're greatly enhancing your chances of getting injured. Moderate weight with moderate reps is 60 to 85% of your 1 rep max with 6 to 15 repetitions. Now, this right here is what I recommend to people who are just getting in. If they're in decent shape, it depends on an assessment, or if the assessment and how that comes out, it could even mean lightweight, which is the next one that we see down here. Lightweight with high reps is 60% of your 1 rep max with 15 reps or more, and kind of focusing on those 15 to 30, which 30 is on the high end. But the key to hypertrophy is volume. You can yell and scream at the top of your lungs with, intensity, your workout's got to be 100% intense. And it's like, well, the problem is if you give 100%, your central nervous system hasn't and won't be able to reset unless you have a very long rest period in between your sets. And so this is very problematic for the people who believe in the 1 set per body part, which is a really, really outdated and mythological farce. And a lot of people use it just to sell their routines. So they swear by it, but science has proven them otherwise. When all things are equal, higher volume creates more hypertrophy than lower volume. And that is always the case, because what happens when you lift a weight, your body is going to respond to the micromuscle tears that occur in that muscle. And then through nutrition and recovery, your body's going to repair those torn muscle fibers. And depending on the amount of weight that you're lifting, will depend on whether it builds more muscle fibers to combat against that resistance at future dates. And of course, it's going to take a lot of workouts to build, to get that repaired muscle fiber and to especially build muscle fibers. It was interesting. I read a paper that was talking about how long does it take. And this was about 6 months ago, I think it was. And anyway, it ends up, it's like 18 sessions. So if you start working out and you have 18 workouts, you'll have a period of where you get sore, you get the lactic acid, you'll get inflammation, you'll get swelling, you'll get more fluids going to that area as a response to that damage that you did to your muscles. You'll get more water into your muscles because of the damage that you did with those micro muscle tears. And the study that was done, or the paper that I read, I can't remember if it was a study that referenced a paper that referenced the study, or it was an actual study. So forgive me for that. But it ends up that it takes about 18 workouts for people for them to actually see muscle fibers being built, and at a certain amount to where they said it was significant. So, depending on what you consider significant, again, it's just kind of interesting. So there needs to be some continuity, and there needs to be some dedication to working out to be able to get some hypertrophy. So I thought that was really interesting. But volume is key. If I only lift a low amount of weight, or a low volume, which is the weight times the sets times the reps, that is the total volume. Well, if I have a low volume, your body's only going to respond. It's never going to give way more than what is required. So it's kind of like, if your tank is empty in your car, you're going to go and you're going to fill the tank. You're not going to fill the tank and then just keep squeezing the gas pump until gas is flowing out of your car onto the ground. And it's like, that's not how it works. And the same thing with our muscles. You're going to have your resistance training, and it's going to result in a certain amount of hypertrophy. And it's limited also not only by volume, but also by nutrition as well. So, and if you don't have good nutrition, you could be doing a lot of exercises, but you would end up being overtraining because you don't have the fuel to fuel your workout, or fuel your recovery, or the building blocks of protein which is needed to build muscle. And it's just really, really interesting. So we're going to continue on with this. It says, when it comes to hypertrophy, prioritizing low weight with high reps over heavy weight with low reps can be more effective due to its emphasis on volume and working sets to failure or close to failure. This is really, it's common sense, but it's eye-opening at the same time for people that don't know. And by utilizing lighter weights, individuals can perform more repetitions per set, ultimately increasing the overall volume of your workout. The higher volume stimulates more muscle growth by inducing metabolic stress, a key factor in hypertrophy. Additionally, pushing sets to failure or near failure maximizes muscle fiber recruitment and fatigue, triggering greater muscle damage and subsequent repair and growth. So while heavy weights are valuable for strength gains, usually the heavier weights with the lower repetitions from 5 and below will give you strength and power. When we're looking at rep ranges of like 6 to 12, you'll get kind of a balance of strength and hypertrophy. But if you're coming to a place of where you're plateauing in regards to hypertrophy, one thing to look into would be the lighter weights with heavier reps, and they can give you some superior results. And also vice versa. I've known people that have done the lower weights and higher repetitions, and they've kind of plateaued, and then they switched over to heavier weights and lower reps, and they got some great results with that. And usually what I've found in my life, in all the years I've been lifting, is that it kind of goes from one end to another. If I start plateauing in hypertrophy, I'll reach certain levels. Then what I'll do is I'll dip back down to heavy weights with low reps and work on strength. And so I'll get some strength gains, and then I'll dip back over to the hypertrophy range with the lighter weights and the higher repetitions. Usually from 6 to 12, I'll make sure that the weight is close to, or the exercise that I do is close to failure or to failure. Mostly it's close to failure, maybe 2 or 3 left in the tank. And I've gotten some really, really good results. But with this, the newest information that I found was talking about the low weight with the high repetitions of doing 20 to 30 repetitions. That, and I've been doing that recently, and I tell you what, it is, wow. It's been like a few weeks now, so I know I'm still in that inflammation stage. I know I'm still in that swollen stage, the sore stage, and so on and so forth. But I definitely noticed I'm getting a lot bigger than when I did with the heavier weights and the low repetitions. The other thing we can take a look at here on the next one is an example of what I'm talking about, because I've talked to people who ended up saying, okay, well, I do heavyweight with low repetitions and I'm kind of stalled in what I'm doing. And I tried low weight with high repetitions, I just didn't get anything. And it's to that, it has to be at a certain percentage of your 1 rep max. And it really comes down to volume. The key thing that I've found is it comes down to volume. Now I got 2 pictures of me. That's weird. Let's just stick with the 1 picture of me. So anyway, the question I ask individuals who I meet in the gym and online contact me and send me messages and ask questions is that, oh, I tried the low weight with high repetitions and it didn't work. And it's like, well, what was your volume? What was your volume compared to using heavy weight with low reps versus, low weight and high repetitions? And a number of people are like, well, I tried it, just didn't work. You didn't track how much volume you lifted? Then how can you say that was even a thing? And in all honesty, I have done that in my life too. So, everybody does it from time to time. But this is really interesting what we end up seeing here. So for example, heavy weight with low repetitions. Dumbbell alternating bicep curl is what I ended up doing. I do 4 sets. And with 60 pounds with 12 repetitions and 70 at 10, 80 at 8, 90 at 6. And if you do the volume, it comes out to 2,600 pounds. On the easy bar decline close grip skull crusher, you can see it's 90 pounds with 14 reps. The second set is 100 pounds with 12, 110 with 10, and then 110 with 8 for a total of 4,440. So we add that up and we get some big numbers. Matter of fact, I forgot to add that. Imagine that. What are the odds? Let's see. 2,600 plus 4,440 equals just over 7,000 pounds. So we end up with 7,000 pounds with that there. And let's see, what was that? 7,000. We'll just add this in here for grins. 7,040. Maybe if I put a 0 in there, it'd actually be worth it. So that is the volume. Again, you're going to have the weight times the sets times the reps. And go down here to where I switched out, and I've been doing for a number of weeks now, the low weight with high repetitions. And we can see that for the alternating dumbbell bicep curl, the exact same exercise. And what I ended up doing is like 50 pounds of 18, 40 pounds of 20, 30 pounds at 20, and then 20 pounds at 25 repetitions. So we end up with 90 or 900, 800, 600, 500 for 2,800 off of that, which we can see is a difference of 200 more pounds. And I could probably add a little bit more, try to get into those first 2 sets, try to get up to 20 and 25. Definitely want to try to get to 25 and 30 to up that even more. But I upped the volume by 200 pounds just on that exercise. If we go down here to the easy bar curl or skull crusher, we end up with 70 and 25 reps, 70 at 18 reps, 60 at 20 reps, 50 at 25 reps, and then 50 at 20 reps for a total of 6,460. So we'll add that up, 6,460. And what I end up with is 9,260 pounds. So with that right there, what we end up seeing, and the great thing about this is that I don't use 100% of my 1 rep max. I stay at, I would say, about 90%. Started out about 70, 75%, and depending on the days and how I feel and so on and so forth, and easing into that adjustment period, we're looking at about 80, 85%. And so I can have a rest period between my sets of about 2 minutes, which is what I found to be good for me and my experience and my nutrition and recovery and so on and so forth, so that I don't get gassed. And I can come back and the second set, drop the weight a little bit, again, increase the number of reps with the lower weight. And my volume is, the difference between the 2 volumes minus 7,000 net. So it's a difference of 2,220 pounds. And I can tell you that with the higher weight and the low repetition, I would be spent. I would totally be spent. And even though I would have some more recuperation time between sets, what I found out is with the lower weight with the higher repetition, and I have like a 2 to 3 minute rest period between sets, at the end of the day, I'm not as gassed, I'm not as worn out as what I was when I was doing those heavy weights. And I've been getting some massive, massive pumps from those workouts that I do. So usually with the heavy weights and the low reps, do a 2 hour workout, 2.5 hour workout, working a few body parts, and then I come home and scarf down a bunch of food and a bunch of protein, and then I'm just kind of wore out and dried, and it's just, and then I take a nap for 2 or 3 hours, and that's my day. However, the great thing is that I found with this low weight and high repetition, especially operating at 80% of my one rep max, is that I can increase the amount of volume and I don't need a nap after I get home from the gym on those days. So we're still seeing some good results on this. And if you are actually getting to a point of where you've plateaued and you do that heavy weight with the low repetitions, you might want to try that low weight with the high repetitions. When it comes to hypertrophy, there's some things I want to take a look at here. It says when it comes to the rep range, you can use the high weight with the low repetitions or the low weight with high repetitions. When adjusting for factors like the number of sets performed and the rest periods between sets, low weight with higher repetitions offers slightly better than average when it comes to hypertrophy. And this was based off a number of studies, and those will be at the very end. But it should be noted that more rest between sets is needed to let the central nervous system recover. Studies show that 2 to 5 minutes is sufficient to recover for more sets. And of course, this is going to be dependent upon a lot of different variables. So, for some people, 2 minutes might not be enough. It might be 3, it might be 4. It's dependent upon, your lifting experience. It's dependent upon your nutrition. It's dependent upon your age. Your hormones, your growth hormone receptors, and whether they're clicking on all fours or not, how much your body is producing in regards to that, how old you are. You could be a young person and you could have some severe imbalances in regards to growth hormone that your body produces along with testosterone, total and free testosterone. And it should be noted that free testosterone is what you need to look at, because that 1 to 2% of that comes from your total testosterone is generally responsible for building muscle. That's why when you're young and you're a teenager and hormones flying everywhere and hair's growing in weird places, it ends up that is the highest levels of your testosterone is when you're in your late teens and in your 20s, and then it kind of goes downhill from there. So some people, even at a young age, they could have a high total testosterone level, but their free testosterone level is low, and so it's hard for them to build muscle. Again, the human body is made up of so many different systems and billions, millions and billions of inner working pieces and parts. And on top of that, biochemical reactions and this and that and food and nutrition, the whole 9 yards, recovery, sleep, there's a lot that can affect your hypertrophy and strength gains. So again, all of those things need to be on point for you to get the maximum results. But anyway, the big thing is the central nervous system to recover when doing the low weight with the high repetitions. And I found because you operate at a lower than a 100% of one rep max, like around 80-85%, you'll find yourself, you won't need as much rest. And eventually you'll adjust into that. And then you get to a point where I've gotten where it's like, I don't have to take a nap after working out on a workout day, which is great. Number 2, a person engaging in resistance training should undergo an assessment and set realistic goals with safety in mind. This especially applies to seniors. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of senior fitness influencers that don't do any type of assessment and they don't set realistic goals with safety in mind. It's all this flash in the pan. You try to get it fast, quick, and easy. And again, going back to the one set wonder, one set per body part, and only 2 times a week for 30 minutes a workout, a full body workout. Really, those people don't understand how the body works, and they say put 100% into it. That's why you only need to do one set. But again, there have been multiple studies showing that single sets against multiple sets win out every single time. And even Dr. Mike Israetel has talked about that on his YouTube. He did a reel recently talking about where Mike Menser, who is supposedly the one set per body part, when actually he wasn't. He would do either a superset or he'd do 1 or 2 warm-up sets at 70% of 1 rep max. And then his third set would be his working set, which would be 100%. But studies have shown you can still get superior hypertrophy without going to 100%. And then the elephant in the room is that Mike Menser was on massive steroids and he even did barbiturates as pre-workout. So how does that really apply? That just it's not an apples to apples comparison. It's no wonder that Mike Menser never wanted his system to undergo a controlled study, and it was offered and he rejected it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But I digress. This is interesting. The focus should be on tailoring the routine to the individual and work within a 1 rep max range they can perform while minimizing the possibilities of injuries. And again, from those 14 different studies, talking about 60%, 60 to 85%, and then 85% and maybe a little bit more. Seniors generally have higher incident rates of accidents as they age, so starting at a lower percentage is totally acceptable, depending on the results of a physical fitness assessment, which unfortunately a lot of online fitness influencers cannot do. And I'm afraid, unfortunately, that a lot of fitness trainers who train people in person don't do real good assessments. They're just in it to sell a program. So if you're plateauing in regards to hypertrophy and you have been a high weight with low repetition type of person for a long time, then what you can end up doing is considering the low weight with the higher repetition. Now, here's the part where the bro science people and the people that sell those programs that is too good to be true, which means that they really hate this page right here. These are the number of studies that talk about this. Crescent, pyramid, and drop set systems do not promote greater strength gains, muscle hypertrophy, and changes on muscle architecture compared with traditional resistance training in well-trained men. I actually had a senior fitness influencer tell me that traditional resistance training was fraught with all types of injuries, that it's not good for muscle hypertrophy. Yeah, that's studied there, along with numerous others. But we're just talking about the high weight with the low repetitions versus high weight with low repetitions versus the low weight with the high repetitions. The next study was effective resistance training to muscle failure versus volatile interruption at high and low intensities on muscle mass and strength. That was a really good one. The next one is effects of rest intervals and training loads on metabolic stress and muscle hypertrophy. Again, control groups, measured studies, the measurement of how much hypertrophy, how much strength. We're talking about DEXA scans, we're talking about MRIs, we're talking about X-rays, muscle biopsies, and it's so hard to go against the facts. The next one is differential effects of heavy versus moderate loads on measures of strength and hypertrophy in resistance-trained men. The other one, does concurrent training intensity distribution matter? Effects of drop sets with resistance training on increases in muscle CSA, strength and endurance, a pilot study. That was a good one. Effects of moderate versus high load resistance training on muscle growth, body composition, and performance in collegiate women. So and I just want to kind of rant on this a little bit, go down a rabbit hole. There's so many people out there that are like, fitness trainers, supposedly, and sell their online routines, and they cater specifically to women, and they will say that multiple sets are bad because women don't want to get big and bulky, and they don't want to lift 500 pounds. They don't want to do have big 18, 20-inch arms, and it's like if somebody says that who is a trainer, they are probably the worst trainer. I don't know any decent trainer that would say such a thing because one, there's only so much muscle that you can build as your genetic potential allows. And that is governed by how much nutrition and what your nutrition plan is. So if you're a woman and you don't want to get big, and most women don't want to get big, they don't want to get big and bulky and look like the Hulk. They want to tone up, they want to lose some body fat, they like that tone fit feeling and look, and that's what they want. So doing multiple sets and doing low weight with higher repetitions or heavy weight with low repetitions will not just magically balloon them up into the Hulk where they got 20-inch arms and they're benching 6, 7, 800 pounds on the bench press. It doesn't happen. And the nutritional component is a large part of that. If you're not eating enough carbs, if you're not eating enough protein, if you're not eating enough fats, usually about a 40 or 20% breakdown for your macros is good for that. And if you're trying to gain muscle, you're going to look at about 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. That's for building muscle. So if you're around the 0.5 and 0.6, you're going to maintain the muscle mass with that amount of protein coming in, and you're not going to get huge like the Hulk. It's just the way it is. And then there's the physical characteristics of women just being women. The wonderful people that they are, generally, most women have less upper body strength than men do, but they have more muscle strength in their lower part of their body, and it's kind of vice versa for the men. So, yeah, it's not like if you do multiple sets that suddenly women are going to explode and blow up, but certain fitness influencers and fitness trainers who are selling these one set per body part routines with minimal amount of time in the gym are trying to convince the women that, no, you don't want to do that because then you'll blow up as big as the Hulk, and you don't want to do that. So he's trying to use a little bit of an emotional plea as to cast shade, but unfortunately the science shows that, it's not a thing. There's a lot of variables, and again, you're going to be working towards a goal. So if your goal is to lose body fat as a man or a woman, then you're going to work towards that goal. If you're going to work towards strength gains, then work towards that goal. If you're going to go for hypertrophy gains, then work towards that goal. If you're going to work for endurance or performance because of a job or activity or a sport that you do, your goals are going to be towards those endeavors. So doing multiple sets and doing, the low weight with high repetitions is not going to create runaway muscle and turn you into the Hulk. Any fitness influencer or trainer/trainer that suggests that is totally ignorant to how the body operates and all the different variables that are involved. I've never, ever seen that happen. My wife, for example, she ends up, my wife is like 5'3", is like $110, with the high volume of sets that we do and the multiple exercises per body part and multiple sets per body part. She and I were doing the exact same routine. Granted, she's using lower weight than me because she can't lift as much as me. She was able to drop about 15, 18 pounds. And she's fit, she's trimmed, she's looking awesome. She always looked awesome, but anyway, just to clarify that. But she looks even more awesome, and she was doing the exact same routine that I was. So if there was any credence to, if you do multiple sets on body parts, you're going to turn into the Hulk and you'll be big and disgusting and be like Holga, East German weightlifter. No, that doesn't happen. and it just shows no trainer worth their salt would go into that. Okay, so we're going to stop going down the rabbit hole. This other one, effects of drop set resistance training on acute stress indicators and long-term muscle hypertrophy and strength. That was a good one. Response of knee extensor muscles to leg press training in various types of humans. optimization of training, development of new partial load mode for strength training, responses of knee extensor muscles to leg press training in various types of humans. I got that down twice. Why do I have that down twice? Oh, yeah, I had a phone call. Oh, sorry about that. Minus the dual. Effects in rest intervals and training loads on metabolic stress and muscle hypertrophy. Again, a lot of things that we find in these studies, and if you take the time to read them and take the time to learn what they say and then how to incorporate that into your own workout routine, you can lessen the learning curve, but you're still going to have to put some time and energy into reaching your goals. Okay, it's not going to be quick, fast, and easy. It's not going to be 2 times a week for 20, 30 minutes, and you're going to get superior hypertrophy or strength. That's not how it works. That's not how the human body was made or how it reacts to resistance when resistance is imposed upon it. Influence of 2 different modes of resistance training in female subjects. Again, that was kind of an interesting read. The effect of different resistance training load schemes on strength and body composition in trained men. So with that, it ends up, it was some real good stuff there. And the key thing that I found was for the low weight to high repetitions to work, your volume needs to be more than when you did the heavy weight with the low repetitions. And it's really easy to do, especially if you're operating at less than 100%. What I found is some individuals, and myself included a long time ago, is that with the lower weights, I would still be trying to push for that 100% of 1 rep max and try to do all those, and I would just gas myself out even more. And back then, I just wouldn't even take the time to rest between sets. I did that 30 seconds to a minute between sets and just jump right into it. And no wonder I was wasted, and no wonder my CNS never reset. No wonder I never had as good a results as I could have. But today, the great thing that we have is science that actually proves and tests and data and figures and muscle measurements and strength measurements beyond a shadow of a doubt show that volume operating at those different 1 rep max percentages can produce hypertrophy. And you don't have to kill yourself. When you've got somebody who's doing curls and it takes 15, 20, 30 seconds for them to do a curl and they're shaking and then they're doing all this, that's intense, but the volume is still the same. The weight time the set time the number of reps. That is what sports scientists use to define as volume. However long it takes you to lift that weight is not going to increase the volume. And it will to some degree, to the point of where, you're going to engage more muscle fibers, you're going to do that, but there's actually been a study that shows that, hey, when you do a repetition, the time that it takes you to do that repetition, if it goes past 10 seconds, you're going from strength, from hypertrophy, and that 10-second mark, once you go over that, you're getting diminishing returns in strength and definitely hypertrophy, and it's going into endurance training. So, and if that's your goal, if endurance training is your goal, then go for it. That's absolutely fine. I have no problem with that. Go and reach the goals that you set for yourself. But don't try to say that, well, if I do a repetition for 20 or 30 seconds, I'm going to get better hypertrophy and strength than if you do multiple sets, is unequivocally not true. So, and there's, again, a number of studies and meta-analysis, which consists of multiple studies, which is the highest form of proof in the scientific world in published studies on sports science. That's the deal. So anyway, I just thought this would be interesting. It's weird how it's got that other picture. They must have did an update on my program. So anyway, it's really interesting to see, and getting back, because back in the day I didn't grasp the idea of volume as being a key player in regards to hypertrophy. I did to some degree, but not to the point where it's as fine-tuned as what I'm doing now. especially making sure, like I said, when going over the graphic of the two exercises, what was my volume with the heavy weight and the low repetitions versus the low weight and the high repetitions. And again, the percentage of your one rep max. Now, you might be wondering about the one rep max. How do you figure that out? Well, you could Google that and the old school way, but there's a number of apps that you can use. And I just happen to use JFit here. And JFit is a free exercise app. It has free routines and so on and so forth. It also has a paid plan. But it ends up that as you do an exercise, so let me see, what it could end up doing is looking at your one rep max. And so your one rep max calculator, it will figure out your one rep max with the number of reps you do with the weight. And again, you can look at your current, you can look at your lifetime. So you could end up taking a look at that. So we see the percentage at 100% would be 116.5 pounds for one rep. And if we go down to 85%, that would be 99 pounds. And again, the 70% would be 81 pounds and 13 reps. So there's free apps that you can use to see what your one rep max is, and it does a formula when you do multiple sets, and it gives you that estimation and saying, hey, this is where we're at, and so on and so forth. Granted, you need to put some effort into it. If you just half-ass it and say, oh, this is my one rep max, and then, you can cheat yourself on anything, even apps. Imagine that. What are the odds? Just like you can cheat at anything else in life. So there needs to be some honesty in using these apps and using these tools. But if you can do that, what I found is some great returns in regards to strength, and definitely what I'm looking now into hypertrophy. There was a time where I didn't have an upper chest. I didn't have that line in between here. I didn't have the upper chest that I could poke and have muscle there. And it ended up taking me, even though I did the high weight with the low repetitions, that I'd done for years and years and years and years, and even during my recomp, it wasn't until I focused more on high volume and some direct multiple exercises for that upper chest. So I would do incline bench, I would do incline flies, I would do incline hammer strength, press on that would activate that upper part of the pec. And boom, it took over a year to do it, but I was able to get those returns and get some good hypertrophy. Of course, granted, your nutrition, recovery, and so on and so forth has to be into play as well. And there's a limited amount of gains that you can get naturally. What I found is that a lot of people, unfortunately, will stick with one thing, and then they think that's the end all be all. That's the truth. That's my truth, and so it has to be true for everybody else. But a lot of these studies show that a lot of things that are people's truths aren't actually true at all. They're just beliefs that they have. And unfortunately, I've run across a number of shit influencers in the fitness world that will say, look at me, look at how good I am, look at my physique, and this is how I did it. And it's like, that's no. You kind of like the one set per body part people. I had a guy that I had a conversation with online, and we did the messenger. We eventually got to messenger. We're just chatting back and forth. And he was saying that, this is far superior to the one set per body part. And it's like, well, what do you do for your shoulders? He goes, well, I do one set per body part, And it's like there's three heads to your shoulder. You have your front, your side, and your rear delt. So how if you just do the overhead press, you're working the front, and you're not really working your back, the side, or the back, the rear delts. So how are you doing that? And how are you working the different levels of your chest if you're not doing multiple exercises? Well, that's and you're going to get some activation. But the thing is that if you do regular bench and that's the only chest exercise you do, then you will only get a certain amount of hypertrophy. Now, granted, if you do one set per body part and you only work out 2 times a week doing a full body thing and you do 100%, you will get some hypertrophy. You will get some strength gains, but you're going to be limited because the volume is obviously lower and you're going to be gassed and you're not going to be able to recover as quickly. And again, the lower weight with the higher repetitions, multiple sets, if we get into that, will offer you 40 to 46% better gains for strength and hypertrophy than one set per body part. And again, it's just kind of common sense. If you want to look good, and you want a well-rounded physique to increase your strength and decrease, hypertrophy and to combat against sarcopenia, muscle wasting disease, many seniors get between the ages of 65 and 85, you'll lose about 30% of your muscle mass if you don't do anything soon. The one set per body part doesn't make sense because you have multiple muscle groups. You have 3 triceps within your arm right there that work all that out, and it's just, why settle for less by doing one set per body part where you're going to get 40 or 46% less effective results in regards to strength or hypertrophy than if you did 2 or 3 sets. There's actually studies that have showed this to be true. So I don't understand the one set per body part. But if that's all you want to do, and you're fully informed, and you can made that informed decision saying, well, there's multiple sets per body part, I can get 40 or 46% better in strength and hypertrophy than I can with one set. It depends on your goals. If your goal is just to do the bare minimum to get some benefits of going to the gym and working out, then just do the one set per body part 2 times a week, 30 minutes a shot, blow your load, and you're good to go. It's better than nothing. But the thing is, like for me, why settle for less? You can be so much better. So why settle for less? Oh, wait a second, I'm sorry. We have to settle for less because quick, fast, and easy is what these people are selling. So, it always comes back to that. It's the hype that sells. And if you offer information like this and these studies and a number of other studies and meta-analysis that goes against their wild claims, they have no response to it. And unfortunately, they prey upon the seniors who are ignorant, who don't know about health and fitness. And I don't have a dog in this hunt. I don't sell programs or routines. I share information so that people can become the better version of themselves. If your goal is not to get strong, if your goal is not for hypertrophy, then maybe this video is not for you. Maybe it's endurance. Maybe it's more performance oriented, which is absolutely fine. Swimming, biking, whatever it is that you do it with gusto and go get your goals. Attain those goals, smash them, kill them, and then set more goals and be the best version that you can be. But when you have people telling you that, hey, this is the only way, and it's kind of, the rest of the world is under a conspiracy, and it's a conspiracy to keep out the one set per body part, and blah, blah, then we're starting to get into the BS. That's where the BS meter is like pegging out, and it's like, snap, and it breaks because there's too much hype and too much BS. I like science-based training and evidence-based training that is based off of controlled studies, that is based off of strict protocols, that is based off of you can look at the data and you can see the results with trained and untrained people, men, women, young and old. And the great thing about all these studies, they're all with people who don't abuse steroids. So everyday people like you and me can take advantage of the things that we learn in these studies. So anyway, I just wanted to finish this up. Man, I talked for 49 minutes, almost an hour. That is crazy. I didn't think it would be that long. I thought it would be like 30 minutes. So anyway, that's a lot of information to go over. And again, if you're plateauing in regards to hypertrophy, maybe give the low weight and the high repetitions a shot. Maybe you just do strength. Maybe switch between the two and see how it goes. Try it out and see what happens. Make sure that your volume is higher. And the cool thing is, as seniors, this is the thing that I really like, is that I can experience that superior hypertrophy and strength gains, and I don't have to put 100% into it, which is awesome. Who knew? If I go up that 80, 85%, I'm golden. If I can do more, then yeah, good on me. I can do some ego lifting and stuff like that. But as we continue to age, the good thing with all of these studies and this information is that as I get older, as I get into my 60s, as I get into my 70s, I don't have to feel bad as saying, hey, I'm going to miss out on hypertrophy and strength because I have to drop the percentage of the 1 rep max that I use, because studies have shown 85% of 1 rep max, I'm good. 60 to 85% within that, I can still experience gains for strength and hypertrophy, and even down to 60% with doing high repetitions. I can still build muscle. I can still build strength. I can still maintain a physique without having to kill myself. And as you get older, you will get a little bit more tired. It's just a fact of life. So just thought I would make this video and throw it out there. I know there's going to be some haters and people that are like, no, especially the one set per body part people. They really seem to dislike the science and the proof. And yeah. So tell me what you think. Have you tried this low weight and high repetitions, and especially with keeping the volume at higher level than what you did with heavy weights and low repetitions? I'd really like to hear your thoughts on that. And yeah, but the good thing is, I mean, you can get hypertrophy with both. And I generally recommend 6 to 12 repetitions, so you get a beautiful mix of both strength and hypertrophy. So yeah, find yourself a good trainer and just go kill those goals. Kill it. All right, we'll see you on the next video. Peace.